I'm Baron-Reid, and welcome to the first installment of the deep dive into the wisdom of the oracle. In this series, we'll go card by card, not just reading the keywords or the guidebook, but looking closely at the imagery, the directionality, the symbols, the clues, and what's unfolding in the artwork itself. In each episode, I'll walk through 5 to 10 cards, show you how to build a spread from just one card, and wrap up with a mini reading at the end so you can see how it all comes together in practice. The goal is to help you create deeper, more meaningful readings with our decks, starting here with the wisdom of the oracle. And according to the guidebook, this deck draws inspiration from the I Ching, tarot, Norse runes, and archetypes. So throughout the series, I'll try to unpack some of that imagery through those lenses. I hope the series helps you get deeper, more insightful readings with your own deck. So let me know in the comments what stood out to you, what did you notice that I might have missed, and we'll start. Let's get into the very first 10 cards, starting with Yang. Alright, let's begin with the very first card in the Wisdom of the Oracle deck, Yang. Instead of just focusing on the message of taking action, let's take a deeper look. There are two different types of stars here. The smaller white celestial stars up above, these may represent divine inspiration or even intervention. The larger stars at the very bottom could symbolize worldly achievements like financial success or even recognition. Now notice that the flame here within the hands, it looks chaotic, unformed, wild, untamed. But as it rises towards the sky, it becomes a little bit more structured, a little bit more coherent. So this shows us that the divine stars here, or that divine input, more better said, doesn't just energize a project, it organizes and forces it into fruition. So the dense clouds near at the bottom, it's a little bit harder to see, but you're seeing a little bit of dense clouds here, gradually become clear as we move upwards. This implies that you need to push through confusion or internal resistance before reaching that clarity or prosperity in regards to this situation. Now, divine forces may help you, but the success isn't effortless. It must be channeled with intention and perseverance in order to reach that success. Now, in regards to the I Ching, Yang is represented by an unbroken line, a symbol of active force. The hexagram made of 6 Yang lines is the essence of creative power. And that's exactly what this card channels: bold initiation, motivation, and creative drive. Now, in regards to their tarot, this card connects strongly to the Ace of Wands, which is about raw potential, passion, fire. There's also a bit of the Magician here, where the hands are the channel between the above and below. Now, in regards to directional reading, I suggest putting a card below Yang to show you what you must push through, because those are the clouds that you're having to push through, and a card above it to reveal the divine guidance or what higher clarity needs to be needed to complete the manifestation. So in this case, we have. Now we move on to Yin, the divine feminine principle of receiving. So notice the soft stairways and the floorboards leading to the single receptive bulb. This symbolizes the small but intentional steps needed to enter a state of receptivity. It's not about rushing, it's about aligning to your goal. So now we have a soft curtain on the right side, and this may mean concealing part of the scene, hidden knowledge, mysteries, or influences you haven't yet really acknowledged. The surrounding softness invites stillness. Now, this card channels strong high priestess energy, knowing, observing, and waiting for the right time. It's a reminder to pause, to listen, and allow things to unfold. In regards to the I Ching, Yin is represented by a broken line, a symbol of receptivity and openness. A hexagram made entirely of Yin lines is called the kun, the receptive. The energy here doesn't rush, it doesn't initiate, it waits, it watches, and allows things to unfold. This kind of power holds space without needing to control the outcome. That matches what we see in this card. The bowl, the curtain, the soft flooring, all pointing towards a kind of stillness that allows for clarity to rise on its own. So let's talk about directional reading if you were to get this one card. The card to the right will help you, which is facing the curtain, will indicate what you're currently blind to. The card below shows the inner work or emotional processing needing to reach to the bowl, the center of your intuitive wisdom. Okay? All right, we're going to move on to card number 3 in just a little bit. Let's move on to card 3, Between Worlds. This one is showing 2 different sides. On the left side, we see the monochromatic tone, suggesting perhaps black and white thinking, depression, being stuck in an outdated role, rigidity. On the right hand side, we see vibrancy, life, joy. This might symbolize spiritual awakenings, freedom, or rediscovering selfhood. So it's a little hard to see, but the crown that the flamingo has, it looks a little illuminated. That might represent alignment, enlightenment, or even ascension. So in regards to the flamingo itself, flamingos live in both water and land, showing us that this is a transitional moment, a balance maybe of emotion and reality. The hummingbird, which is a little bit harder to see, it's facing towards the left-hand side. And this perhaps reminds us to integrate maybe the past, not necessarily abandon it or repressing it. Healing or acknowledgement may still be needed in order to move forward fully. This card resonates more with the Two of Swords. Let me see if I can grab that here. Like that sense of being in between. It also can signify the Judgment, where we have rebirth through evaluation and soul purpose, and then death, which is transformation and having to let go of the past. Now, in regards to directionality, we have here the left card. If we were to pull this card first, will show us what still anchors you in the past, and then the right card can show us your potential if you released and stepped forward. All right, let's move on to the next card. For card 4, the higher power, we have here, it's a card about divine connection and insight. The third eye glows with a beam of light and a keyhole, as you can see here. This suggests that the wisdom is within you, but it's still locked. But you hold the key. But it must be turned with faith and intention. The face and the chest or abdomen aligns with gut instinct. It's an invitation to listen to your intuitive body before logic, because your soul already knows the answer. The face does look a little asleep or half asleep, suggesting that the inner clarity may come during moments of maybe solitude, meditation. The antlers on the celestial body may symbolize like a spiritual antenna, where your connection to the wild divine. And the white stars around or surrounding the antenna reinforce that divine clarity, right? The stars that we saw in the very first card of Yang. And only becoming accessible through stillness or meditation, as we described before. Now, in regards to tarot, I would say that this is a mix of both the High Priestess as well as the Star, where the High Priestess is about inner knowing and talking about the intuition, while the Star is about hope and divine alignment. Now, if we were to get this card and we wanted to get a little bit more information, the card above may show what this reading is about, like what it's being revealed, while the card below may reflect the signs or feelings that have been already guiding you, that intuition that we talked about as it's aligning with that face at the bottom. Okay, we're going to move on to card number 5. Card 5 is Orphaned. This card brings up feelings of abandonment, exile, and grief. You have here a lone figure, and she's perched up here on this rock formation, but if you look a little bit closer, you could see that she's actually on a nest, which is clearly not her home. It's barren, it's cold. This may represent emotional displacement, a needing to belong. And now here, if you could look a little bit closer, what looks like perhaps a wedding dress This may symbolize union, connection, a marriage of two families, but as you can see here, there's nobody around. It's a little harder to see, but there's also like what looks like to be a mask, like a bird mask. And this is hiding their identity. So perhaps they're trying to become someone that they're not because of the fact that they feel alone. The ground in front of them, as you can see, is dry, it's gray, and it's mirroring that person's perspective of scarcity and disconnection. But behind them, you can see that these trees are actually thriving. And the banner above, you could see that there's isn't like visual continuity, as you can see here in the center. And this may hint at the fact that this person may be different, but they need to accept that, right? It's their key to their strength. They're not necessarily broken, and that is actually something that they need to embrace. Now, in regards to the tarot, I would say it's a combination of both the Five of Pentacles as well as the Five of Cups. Where you have the Five of Cups, we have that emotional loss and perspective, and the blend of Five Pentacles where you're feeling left out but missing and having unseen, not seeing that support that you may have. Now, in regards to directionality here, as you can see, she's looking towards this way. So this is a card explaining what she's really focusing on versus what could be helping or supporting her, which is on her left hand side where we see that thriving forest behind her. So that's how I would read this directionality. Let's move on to the sixth card. Card 6 is not for you. This is a really interesting card. The first thing you'll notice is the chessboard immediately brings up strategy, duality, and even conflict. Black and white, win or lose, but right in the center you see a fortune cookie that just says no. There's a hand offering the game, but it doesn't feel like it's a fair invitation. Something about it just feels a little off, like it's more of a test or a trap than really a true opportunity. And then there's the mask or face above the board that you see here, floating kind of like a judge or an overseer of what you're going to decide. This card isn't just about walking away from something that isn't aligned. It's about understanding the energetic dynamics of the situation. Just because it looks like an opportunity doesn't mean it's meant for you. Sometimes clarity and peace comes from not playing at all. This reminds me of the Five of Swords, which is conflicts that drains rather than teaches. So in regards to directionality here, we can place a card beneath in order to reveal what this might have cost you if you were to go ahead and do this. The left and right hand side, we could indicate what are the two sides that are in regards to this particular conflict or game. And then finally at the very top, it's what opens up if you were to walk away from all of this. Okay, let's move on to card number 7. For card 7, we have To the Sea. This card feels calm. As you can see, there's a girl in what looks like a paper boat gently floating. She's not steering or focused on the destination. She looks like she's present in the moment. Maybe she's even reading or daydreaming. At the front of the boat, we see an arrow, and at the back, we see the binoculars, one looking to the past and one pointing ahead, but neither are in use. So let's bring the I Ching here. The hexagram that mirrors this card is pronounced Kan, K-A-N, the water trigram, and that's repeated twice. It's about moving through emotional depths, uncertainty, stillness, and sometimes the unknown, kind of akin to the Six of Swords. But it doesn't mean danger. It means learning to float, to trust the current, to let insight rise naturally when you stop trying to steer. And that's exactly what's happening in this card. We're not fighting the waves or forcing a direction or progress. It's about stillness and learning. Now, if you move into the Norse Runes, which I do have a card for that, the Laguz comes into mind. It's the rune of water, movement, emotion, and intuition. But it's also about trust in your internal rhythm. It reminds us you don't always need to act. Sometimes you need to feel, to drift, and allow. To the sea asks us to surrender to emotional intelligence. Not everything is meant to be solved. Some journeys begin with just stillness. Now, in regards to directionality, if you were to have this card and you wanted a little bit more information, I would say that the arrow might hint at what's moving forward, and then the binoculars is what is behind. Let's move on to card number 8. Card 8, which is community. So this card is full of subtle cues here. At the center, there's a little hut labeled hotel. It's not a home, but a shelter. It's a place to gather, a shared space. We see a giraffe, we see birds, and even a smiling face built into the actual hut. All of this points towards that sense of welcoming, connection, and belonging. There's a treasure chest, which is a little bit harder to see on the corner here next to the hut. So there's a value here, not just emotionally, but more spirituality. The kind of treasure you find when you allow yourself to be seen. Now look at the banner across the top. Most of the triangles are the same except the one in the middle. It's slightly different. That detail connects directly to the Orphaned card that we saw previously. The thing that sets you apart might actually be what helps you feel like you belong. The floating leaves are also interesting. You see some here and right here on the top. That as you can see, some of them are falling, some are rising. This may be a symbol of exchange, giving and receiving, the community being as a cycle here. Now, in regards to the I Ching, and I apologize for not bringing this out earlier. I totally forgot I had these cards here. This would resonate more with hexagram number 45, which I think is pronounced Shri. Which is gathering together. It speaks to unity through shared purpose. This isn't about losing yourself in the crowd. It's about what's built, what individuals can contribute to their gifts to something larger. The hotel in the image isn't necessarily a personal home, right? It's a structure of welcome. As you can see with the different animals that are all around it, right? And as well as the treasure chest. All of this, even the odd triangle in the banner, each element reinforces that belonging doesn't require sameness. What made you feel like an outsider may be the very thing that the community actually needs. And that's okay to be different. Now, in regards to going back to the I Ching, you can see here that the keywords are converging and unifying, assembling and combining forces. The sum is greater than the actual parts. Now, in regards to the directional reading tip here, I would suggest the cards nearby, like left and right, might help clarify the role you play in your community or what you are meant to give and receive from it. So I would say giving on the left-hand side and then receiving on the right-hand side. Let's move on to card number 9. Card 9, we have Treasure Island. This one is about pure abundance, but very slow and steady. A treasure chest overflowing with hearts, stars, and gold floating gently on the back of a turtle. So the turtle is key here. It tells us that this treasure, it's real, but it's not a quick win. It's something you've been working towards or will have to work toward over time. The water is calm, it's clear. That transparency matters. There's no deception here, just aligned earned reward. There's love here, there's purpose. The stars and hearts aren't just pretty, they represent soul alignment, emotional fulfillment. This isn't just about financial success, it's joy in what you're building. Now, in regards to the tarot here, I want to go over a few, what it would align with, and that would be both nines here, the 9 of cups as well as the 9 of pentacles. As you can see here, it's a union, right? It's a union of what you love and what you're working towards, that earned reward. It could also echo the King of Pentacles. It's a slow, faithful movement towards that financial success. So in regards to directionality here, the card behind may show the foundation that you possibly laid, and I would go with the direction of the turtle. So the foundation would be on the right hand side as it's moving towards the left. And so the left hand side would show us how to sustain or nurture that success ahead. And what that may be, let's say we don't know what it's about, we would pick the card on top to show us or reveal what it would be. We're almost done here. We're gonna move on to number 9 in just a, or 10 in a little bit. Card 10, we have Unfinished Symphony. This one's a little bit heavier. There's a girl sitting on a giant egg, symbol of something that hasn't yet hatched. She's holding a violin surrounded by musical notes and keys, but she's not playing. She's not fully present. Her posture looks a little unsure, not necessarily confident, like she's in the middle of something, maybe doubting herself or maybe stuck. As you can see here with the clouds, on the left-hand side we have more of a softer, quieter clouds, and on the right-hand side we have brighter and chaotic clouds. That shift could speak to emotional pressure, perfectionism, or fear of finishing. There's also little small winged beings around it, floating nearby. And that could be like maybe musical muses, maybe distractions, or even worry. And I take that from just Lenormand, where we read birds is more of like anxiety. So to me, this feels more like a moment of pause before the leap, creative energy that's stalled or just waiting for a breath. Now, in regards to what this card resonates best with, I would have to go with the Ching hexagram 64, which is referred to as before completion. It's a project that's close to taking form, but there's still fragility in the process. One misstep, one rushed decision, as you could see here, and the entire structure could go down. The hexagram teaches you about patience at the end of transformation, right at the finish line. Things aren't necessarily stable yet, even if they appear almost done. There's tension here between what's emerging and what's still uncertain, just like the egg beneath the figure, as you can see here in the card, that's full of potential but could easily be cracked before the right time due to pressure. So Unfinished Symphony carries that energy perfectly, like a sense of movement, emotion, creative energy, but without resolution. It's not quite ready, right? It's not ready to hatch. The guidance here isn't to fix or finish. It's to sit with the process. Let the final note come naturally. Don't force it. Completion is on the horizon, but clarity must rise from within. Now that we're done with the very first 10, we're going to just try a mini reading with one of the cards. And then, like mentioned before, we're going to do a card reading on just those 10 cards. I'm going to just pick one and then just use the directionality of the card in order to come up with that spread. So we have Orphaned here. I'm just going to move the guidebook. And as I mentioned previously, we'll have the right-hand side show us what she's focused on. And then on behind her, we'll see what she's not necessarily focusing on that might help or support her or flourish. As you can see here with the background, that's what's giving us that spread. So in front of her, we have a higher power, and behind her, we have community. So, as you recall, the Orphaned card speaks about exile, loneliness, feeling like you've been left behind, but it's not really actual abandonment. And the reason why we stated that is because she's just looking at or mulling over the wrong things, right? And not necessarily seeing that there is support here, as you can see how these trees are here flourishing as opposed to that dry or barren area in front of her. So to the left, we see community, and that's the key here. There is support. Support is available. Connection has been there and is waiting for her. But she's not necessarily looking in that direction. She's turned away, and her eyes are fixed to the right side, which we have the higher power, which is longing for divine connection, answers, or even a sign. So we see that she doesn't see the face that's watching gently over her from that hotel, the treasure chest behind her, or that sense of place that's already been offered. The card here, the higher power, shows us that what she's just seeing, right? She's trying to look for divine clarity, inner peace, but there's something subtle here. The hands that are gently resting on that neck of the celestial being, kind of cradling, almost feels like she's feeling silence. It could suggest a feeling of not having a voice, of wanting to speak the truth or receive answers, but fearing they won't be heard, or that maybe it won't matter if she even says anything. So the spread reveals like a deep internal conflict, right? A mental one, reaching towards the divine while forgetting that there is human connection here that's already present, waiting for her. Like the ache of disconnection isn't from the world outside, it's from inside. And the cards flanking her shows pathways, right? One through community and the other through spiritual stillness. So that wraps up the very first 10 cards in Wisdom of the Oracle. Thanks for being here and exploring this deck more deeply with me. I hope some of these observations gave you something new to work with these cards, or just helped you see something differently. These series will help, hopefully, real fluency with your decks, going beyond just the keywords and letting the imagery speak to you, and hopefully guide you in creating a spread just from a one-card pull. And let me know in the comments if you saw a symbol maybe that I didn't mention, or that you would like to add, or anything that you would like to add. If you're enjoying the series, please go ahead and like and subscribe, or just say hello below. I would love to hear how you use this deck in your own practice. All right. Thank you so much for watching again. See you in the next episode. Take care.